Every night, children lined up, holding small bags tightly in their hands. They weren't heading off to school, and this wasn't the start of an exciting trip. They were going underground, not to explore forgotten tunnels or play games, but simply to sleep. No one could tell them how long this strange new routine would last. They only knew one thing for certain: being above ground after dark was no longer safe. Imagine the scene. As twilight settled over the city, a curious migration began. Down the steps of London's tube stations, families would descend, carrying blankets, pillows, and whatever small comforts they could manage. The children, some too young to understand why, followed their parents into the dim, cavernous spaces. They weren't just escaping the cold night air. They were escaping a danger that fell from the sky. This nightly ritual became their new reality, a journey into the earth for a chance to see the morning sun. It was a silent, nightly exodus, a testament to the simple, powerful instinct to survive. The year was 1940. London, a sprawling city of millions, had become the primary target of relentless night bombings. The air raids, known as the Blitz, turned familiar neighborhoods into unpredictable danger zones. Streets where children played during the day became landscapes of fire and ruined by night. Initially, the government hadn't planned for its citizens to seek refuge deep underground. The London Underground, the Tube, was designed for transportation, a network of arteries to keep the city moving, not a massive, sprawling shelter. The official advice was to use small, backyard Anderson shelters or reinforced rooms indoors. But as the bombs continued to fall, night after terrifying night, families began to make their own desperate choice. The noise, the shaking ground, the sheer terror of waiting for an explosion drove them to seek a deeper, more solid form of safety. They ignored official directives and took matters into their own hands. They went underground. It started as a trickle, then became a flood. The platforms of the tube, once bustling with commuters, became sanctuaries. It was a spontaneous, citizen-led movement born from the primal need for survival. The government soon had to accept this new reality and began to organize life in the stations. As darkness fell, the platforms transformed. The organized chaos of rush hour was replaced by a different kind of crowd. Families staked out small claims on the cold, hard concrete. Mothers would lay down coats to create a thin barrier against the chill. Children, wrapped in whatever they had, would curl up, sometimes next to complete strangers who, for the night, became their neighbors. There were no beds, no walls, no privacy. Just the dim, emergency lighting casting long shadows and the constant, low murmur of hundreds of people trying to find rest in an impossible situation. And then there was a sound. The distant, muffled thud of explosions from the world above served as a constant reminder of why they were there. It was a grim lullaby for a city under siege. Children, with their incredible capacity to adapt, learned to sleep through it. They learned to ignore the rumble of the last few trains before service stopped for the night, and to find comfort in the strange, communal quiet that followed. For many of these children, this became their routine. Night after night, they would descend into the earth, and the city above them would burn. This wasn't a temporary measure, it became a way of life. From a child's perspective, this bizarre nightly ritual could sometimes feel almost normal. The youngest ones, those who had no memory of a life before the war, might not have even questioned it. This was just what you did when the sun went down. They didn't ask when the war would end. They asked which station they would sleep in tonight. The concept of a private bedroom was replaced by a shared space on a public platform. The familiar playgrounds of parks and streets were traded for the new, exciting, and sometimes scary geography of the tube station tunnels. The sweet sound of a lullaby was drowned out by the wail of the air raid sirens, which, ironically, became the signal for bedtime. In their letters and diaries from the time, and in memories shared decades later, a surprising theme emerges. Many children remember feeling safer underground than they ever did in their own homes. Down there, shielded by tons of earth and concrete, the war felt distant. The shaking was less intense, the noise less terrifying. In the crowded, communal darkness, surrounded by hundreds of others, they found a strange and powerful sense of security. Eventually, the Blitz came to an end. The nightly bombing ceased. The all-clear sirens sounded for the last time, and life began its slow, cautious return to the surface. The train started running on their normal schedules again. Families packed up their blankets for the final time and went home to sleep in their own beds, in houses that were hopefully still standing. London began to heal and rebuild. Life moved back above ground. But for the children who had spent their formative nights sleeping on station platforms, the memory was etched into their minds. The experience of the tube shelters became a permanent part of who they were. Even years later, as adults with their own families, certain sounds could trigger a powerful physical memory. The rumble of a train passing underground, the specific wail of a siren, or even the smell of damp concrete could transport them back to those nights. They didn't remember it as soldiers or as celebrated heroes. They remembered it simply as children trying to find a safe place to close their eyes and sleep through the night. History often remembers war through the grand lens of battles, generals, and political leaders. We learn the names of military campaigns and the dates of decisive victories. But so much of history lives in the quiet, unrecorded moments, in the experiences of ordinary people. It lives on the cold concrete floors of the London Underground, under the city streets. It lives in the memory of children who learned, far too early, that survival could be as simple as finding a space on a crowded platform. It was a place where they learned that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was just close your eyes. Listen to the muffled sounds of a world at war and hope that the ceiling above you would hold until morning. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more hidden stories from history.